Force sensitives, including Jedi, Sith, the Bendu, and the Mortis gods, had an array of extraordinary abilities thanks to the Force's blessing. The greater the being's supply of midichlorians, the greater their force-wielding ability. Force sensitives had a wide range of psychic skills, including telekinesis, mental manipulation, sedation, induction of sleep, and precognition. Because of the Force's clairvoyant nature, Jedi mystics and other seers might make prophecies about the future, such as those about the Chosen One or the Force Dyad in the mythology of the Sith Eternal. Force users could foresee their opponent's strikes and guide their ships through hyperspace with this ability. An untrained kid might nevertheless acquire Jedi-like features, including lightning-fast reflexes, thanks to the Force-sensitive, precognitive senses. Force sensitives' physical vitality, strength, mobility, and resilience could also be augmented by the Force, allowing them to crush objects with their bare hands, jump across great distances, levitate, or survive injuries that would cripple and kill normal beings. During their battle on Kef Bir, for instance, Rey, a young Jedi, and Kylo Ren, the Supreme Leader, both used the Force to enhance their physical abilities. Despite Rey's improved speed, Ren was still the strongest of the two. While both those on the dark and light sides could use some Force techniques, such as telekinesis, telepathy, and enhancing one's own physical abilities, some powers were only accessible to those who had a certain stance in the Force. The Jedi Order educated its young recruits on the myriad ways the Force may be put to use, from self-defense to persuasion to gain insight to control matter to accomplishing extraordinary physical feats. While the Jedi were able to tap into the Force by maintaining a tranquil state of mind, the Sith were able to tap into it by having an unquenchable desire for power. Force lightning, for instance, was the capability of the dark side utilized for killing, maiming, and torturing individuals, as we've seen with Darth Sidious torturing Luke. Another illustration of the strength of the dark side is the Force choke, which is used to terrify or kill an opponent by envisioning a claw-like or crushing hand motion and then strangling them. Jedi use mind tricks to subtly influence their targets, but one could use the dark side to force one's will on an unwilling target. Both camps claimed they could save your mind even if your body was destroyed. Soul transferring and relic binding were common practices among Darksiders. Those in service to the light who attained this level of strength had the potential to transform into Force spirits, eternal creatures who kept their individuality even after merging with the Force. The practitioner's ideas, emotions, and will are the keys to unlocking the Force's manifestations. These powers might manifest in a wide variety of ways, such as heightened physical and metaphysical awareness, telepathy, or telekinesis. Its users can influence and control kinetic energy, inertia, friction, pressure, and even gravity, allowing them to overcome these forces and increase the force and momentum they generate for a variety of effects. These components made it such that those who used the power could withstand a fall from tremendous heights or a blow delivered with immense power or at a high speed without suffering serious injury. It should be noted, however, that anticipating the impact lessened its effects, allowing some users of the Force to not be stunned or even land on their feet with ease. This effectively enhanced the physical durability and recovery capabilities of a Force user. Force users' control over physical forces and momentum also gave them the ability to partially defy gravity and other weight, allowing them to move and jump at unnatural speed and distances in seconds. Though the speed only worked for a limited time, it was not constant, while the jumping could be done repeatedly for those who have mastered this ability. This greatly improved the user's agility, allowing them to do acrobatic feats that would be impossible under normal circumstances. A Force user's natural vitality, health, stamina, and endurance were all improved to various degrees, and the more powerful and skilled among them could temporarily boost these qualities even further. This was especially helpful for users who were unable to overcome the age-related or disability-related physical limitations, and it also allowed users to temporarily transcend the physical constraints of their species. A proficient user might bring themselves into a state of suspended animation by manipulating their bodies to the point where they no longer experience pain. The adept could utilize the Force to control his or her body and influence the will of the weak-minded individuals. Highly adept Force users might go beyond just responding to their environment and instead anticipate imminent events, such as the outcome of a battle. Such as in the Battle of Yavin, Luke used such guidance to fire a proton torpedo against the Death Star, a notoriously tough target to do. It is possible to utilize the Force to put someone to sleep or otherwise incapacitate them mentally or physically. When taking the dangerous underwater route to Theed, Qui-Gon Jinn utilized this ability on Jar Jar Binks. Qui-Gon placed a hand on Jar Jar's shoulder and asked him to relax, causing the Gungan to almost lose consciousness. Jar Jar's drastic transformation prompted Obi-Wan to tell his teacher Jinn, "You overdid it." Utilizing the same technique, Jedi Master Faye was able to take Asajj Ventress's thoughts away, rendering her unconscious. Some Force users may be able to augment, reduce, or drain their target's willpower, while others may be able to subtly or entirely alter their thoughts, emotions, memories, and willpower. Force users may not only improve their own abilities, but also affect the world around them by directing the energy of the Force. The dark side frequently employed the Force for nefarious, immoral, and unnatural ends, such as the telekinetic method of choking, strangling, or otherwise inflicting bodily harm on a person. The Sith were notorious for the extensive use of Force lightning, in which they would shower their enemies with massive quantities of energy. Most Jedi focused on healing and defense, using the Force to seal up wounds and defend others from harm. Master Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn learned that via the Force, a Jedi might live on as a Force ghost after death, thus prolonging their lives indefinitely. Some adepts of the Force have figured out how to inhabit another body. Palpatine used this technique to extend his life, and it's likely that the illustrious Dark Jedi did as well. Set Harth, who turned to the dark side during the New Sith Wars, utilized this ability to inhabit hundreds of clone bodies and survive until the Yuzong Vong invasion and beyond. Callista Ming later did a body swap with another friend who was dying. Unlike Harth and Palpatine, Callista was stripped of her Force sensitivity during the transition. Others, like Darth Nihilus in the Jedi Exile, could use the Force to feed off other Force users. Nihilus's power could encompass entire planets and drain them of life. Some Darkside users could use a different and weaker form of this technique to drain the strength of others into themselves, occasionally with fatal results. Darth Nihilus's ability to do this originated from a wound in the Force, which is essentially a rip in the fabric of the Force itself. However, Palpatine said that only Darth Plagueis knew how to use the Force to escape death or create life. Indirectly, Darth Sion, another Sith Lord, evaded death. He was essentially immortal because he could use his suffering to fortify his will and get back up off the ground stronger than before. Since the lightsaber's blade had no relative weight, it was difficult to gauge its location in battle, and the Jedi's heightened awareness was essential in preventing unintentional injuries. A Jedi might also utilize the Force to block blaster fire with their blade. The Force was used not only in the final assembly of a lightsaber, but also in the initial charging of its power cell. However, there were serious consequences for using the Force improperly. Damage, premature aging, and even death may result from using the Force beyond one's physical capacity, since one's own cells would be burned from the inside out. Palpatine and Dorce 81 are two of the most prominent illustrations of the dangers of misusing the Force. This was inevitable for those who sought their strength from the dark side of the Force. Most users would lose their Force abilities entirely if they were too tired, stressed, or disorientated. If a user's abilities or themselves were depleted or stressed, they either had to wait to use it again or refrain from doing so until they had recovered their sense of balance. The intensity of a user's skills may also rise or decrease based on the user's emotional state. It makes sense that having strong, forceful, and raw emotions would increase one's power when it comes to the Force, but doing so increases the risk of experiencing dark side corruption. Force users may turn to a lightsaber or other physical combat if their Force powers are hindered or limited in such a way. And finally, movement of the eyes, hands, or even the whole body accompanied the ability most of the time. This last method was the most prevalent, but it could also restrict the power, particularly when the user's mind or senses were taxed or overloaded. That's the end of the video. If you liked the video, please force push the like and subscribe buttons. May the Force be with you, always.